just point out some of these numbers here, such as the bottom number there, 276, is a number that I'll come back to later again. In fact, in total, the searches yielded about 699 candidate references, of which 583 were identified in this search of general methodology of risk perception studies. A lot has been written and published on risk perception studies. 114 candidate references were found pertaining to risk perception of chemicals, whereby some references have overlapping classifications, obviously. Of the candidate references, 440 were deemed not relevant to our specific topic. Again, this is our topic is the risk perception of chemicals released from consumer products and articles. This, however, given that we developed very tight and very elaborate search strategies, was quite a large number of false positive results. And it indicated to us that despite the development of such advanced search strings, expert input in the selection process is and will continue to be necessary. Okay. And the remaining literature was supplemented with an additional 129 references from our own databases, our being Wiedemann, Schütz, and myself. So what are some of the conclusions from this first task, the basic literature search, looking at what's available out there, what's the current state of the science? Well, we found that a large number of references on risk perception studies per se exist. But we found also that only few and mostly outdated studies exist on chemicals and consumer products. This was quite disappointing. In fact, furthermore, there were no specific bibliographic databases on the subject that we were able to find. The existing databases, be they academic or commercial, do not provide satisfactory coverage. That's the 129 bibliographic entries that weren't even discovered using Web of Science and other tools. That calls for the fact that we should have dedicated risk perception subject categories. This is not implemented yet. And certainly we did not have acceptable search results because we had such high numbers of false positives. And looking at thinking down the line, in creating a database, this was task 3, which I'll get into in a few minutes, that automated updates utilizing the search strings we developed would be able to capture new studies, but will also result in proportionally high rates of false positive results, which will require the input and review of a content expert. Categorization and keyword assignment must also be performed by a subject matter expert. Can't get around having people that know maintaining and updating this database. Again, this is the idea behind this project was what kind of tools can we offer to risk managers and decision makers in order to help them in their risk communication strategies, specifically with the focus on what can they learn and glean out of risk perception research for their specific risk communication challenges. So we then moved on to the questionnaire survey, where we said, well, one of the objectives is to find great literature. We defined great literature as that literature which is published reports that may have not gotten into scientifically peer-reviewed databases, such as Web of Science. This is typically corporate reports, NGO reports, even white papers that may not have been published. So we collected as much great literature as was possible, and then specifically contacted various members of 4 different groups. Excuse me. to obtain information on the exemplary opinions regarding the current state of the art and practice of risk perception studies and risk communication of selected representatives. That was our second objective, and specifically we looked at these 4 different groups, namely the regulatory community, industry, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and consultants. Why consultants? Well, we found that typically industry and even to some extent non-governmental organizations contract out a lot of their risk communication work to consultants. And we've looked at the, and they are, they can be academic, be situated in academia, or they can be in private industry, but that industry is not the same as the industry category we have here, where we, in the industry category, we identified that as the manufacturing industry that develops nanotechnology chemicals, if you will. Okay. Some of the results. We emailed to over 300 pre-selected organizations across Europe. Our selection process was very specific, where we selected for their known involvement with risk perception or risk communication issues of consumer products. Our very disappointing low questionnaire return rate of less than 20 questionnaires, which is quite ridiculous, and we were at that point, I was ready to remove the remaining hair that I have on my head. Was even more, I wouldn't say troubling, but certainly perplexing, because almost all of the participants, certainly the vast majority of the participants that we contacted through email and telephone interviews, were clearly enthusiastic about the topic of the study and about the necessity of risk perception research in risk communication. So, based on the very small sample of returned surveys, this suggests certain things. It does not necessarily prove, and certainly 20 returned results are not worthy of saying that this is a final result. But we have found that very few gray literature items appear to exist. This is not just the survey, but also our searches. While most organizations are aware of the potential significance of risk perception studies for risk communication, it is treated as an implicit knowledge issue. That means a lot of the organizations feel, oh sure, we know about that. We are in tune with what's happening in the risk perception research arena and are applying it, or our contractor is applying it to their to the risk communication strategy. However, only very few organizations have dedicated staff with sufficient expertise to address risk perception study results, and that the majority of responding organizations do not feel that adequate internal or external motivation, for example, regulatory requirements, are present. And mind you, these are pre-selected organizations that are known to be in charge of risk communication issues. We literally scoured all of the European countries. We contacted all of the representatives that are in charge of risk communication within each European country, from Malta to Finland to Spain and the UK. And this seems to hold true. A lot of people were very interested, but very few organizations have dedicated staff, and very few responded with a filled out questionnaire. So what lessons can we use? And